King David, a man after God's own heart, found himself in a dark place. He let pride cloud his judgment. The consequences were dire. It all began with a simple act, a census. David wanted to count his fighting men. He desired to know the strength of his army. This seemingly harmless act was a grave error. It revealed a crack in David's faith, a reliance on human might over God's power. You see, God had always been Israel's protector. He had delivered them from countless enemies. Why would David feel the need to quantify his army? This act suggested a shift in David's heart, a subtle turning away from God. The Bible tells us that Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel. 1 Chronicles 21:1. This wasn't just about counting soldiers, it was about pride. It was about David placing his trust in numbers instead of the Almighty. It was a dangerous path, one that would lead to sorrow and suffering. Not everyone stood by silently. Joab, the commander of David's army, recognized the danger in the king's command. He understood the sacred covenant between God and Israel. He knew that their strength lay not in the size of their army, but in the power of their God. Joab pleaded with David, "May the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times over, and may my lord the king see it with his own eyes. But why does my lord the king want to do such a thing?" 2 Samuel 24:3. His words were a desperate plea, a warning against tempting God's wrath. But David, blinded by his pride, ignored Joab's wise counsel. He insisted on the census. He was determined to have his way, even if it meant defying God's will. His heart had hardened, his mind fixated on earthly power. This act of defiance, this refusal to listen to wise counsel, marked a turning point in the story. It set in motion a chain of events that would have devastating consequences for David and his people. It highlighted the danger of pride, the way it can blind us to truth and lead us down a path of destruction. The consequences of David's sin were swift and severe. God, deeply grieved by David's actions, sent a plague upon Israel. The land was ravaged, the people struck down by an unseen enemy. Death cast a long shadow, a grim reminder of the cost of disobedience. The Bible tells us that 70,000 men of Israel fell dead, 2 Samuel 24:15. Imagine the horror, the grief that swept through the land, families torn apart, communities decimated. The very fabric of their society seemed to unravel. David, witnessing the devastation he had wrought, was overcome with remorse. He saw the error of his ways, the depth of his sin. His heart, once hardened by pride, now broke with sorrow. He cried out to God, "I have sinned greatly in what I have done. But now, Lord, I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have acted very foolishly." 2 Samuel 24:10. His words were filled with genuine repentance, a deep understanding of the gravity of his actions. He recognized that he had offended a holy God, and he pleaded for forgiveness. God, in his infinite mercy, heard David's plea. He stopped the plague, sparing the remnant of Israel. But the consequences of David's sin remained. The land bore the scars of the plague, a constant reminder of the price of disobedience. God, through the prophet Gad, offered David a choice of punishments: 3 years of famine, 3 months of defeat in battle, or 3 days of plague. David, humbled and repentant, chose to place himself in God's hands. "Let us fall into the hands of the Lord," he said, "for his mercy is great. But do not let me fall into human hands." 2 Samuel 24:14. David recognized that true judgment belonged to God. He knew that while he deserved punishment, he also knew that God was a God of mercy. This act of surrender, this willingness to face the consequences of his actions, revealed a transformed heart. David had learned a painful but valuable lesson. He had rediscovered the truth that his strength, his hope, lay not in himself, but in the God he served. In response to God's command, David built an altar on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. He offered sacrifices, seeking atonement for his sin and the sins of his people. This act of sacrifice pointed to a greater sacrifice to come, the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ. David, in his sin and repentance, foreshadowed the human condition. Just as David's pride led to sin and suffering, so too does sin bring pain and death into our world. And just as David found forgiveness and redemption through sacrifice, so too do we find forgiveness and new life through the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. The story of David's census is more than just a historical account. It's a timeless message of sin, judgment, mercy, and redemption. It reminds us that pride can lead even the greatest of leaders astray, but God, in his infinite love and compassion, offers a path back to himself. He is a God who disciplines those he loves, but he is also a God who forgives and restores. Let us learn from David's mistakes and seek to live lives of humility and obedience, trusting in God's strength and not our own. For it is in his presence, in his loving embrace, that we find true peace and lasting victory. Are you ready for the next chapter? Just click here to go straight to it.